bad blood, intense trash talk,
I don't wanna talk.
Mate.
I
Smash me.
don't wanna. I
Yeah,
don't wanna.
smash.
and millions tuning in around the world. Let's take a look back at the most famous UFC fight of all time.
Alhamdulillah, tomorrow night I'm gonna smash your boy, guys. I'm gonna smash your boy.
By mid-2018, everybody knew the name Conor McGregor. You didn't even have to be a fan of the UFC or MMA in general at that point. His name transcended the sport entirely. Now, you have this in other sports like Messi and Ronaldo or Michael Jordan, but this was a first for the sport of MMA. Up until McGregor, the biggest star was Jones or GSP. But McGregor's pay-per-view numbers were damn near what both guys would get combined. Khabib, on the other hand, in 2018 wasn't as popular, but after the fight with McGregor, he'd become a superstar himself. He'd be backed by an entire country and race, but we'll dive deeper on that later. Khabib's journey to becoming champion was as wild as they come. The dude had 6 cancelled fights before getting a title shot. Riddled with bad weight cuts, injuries, and volatile matchmaking, from 2012 to 2018, a scheduled Khabib fight was never guaranteed. Of those 6 cancellations, 4 of those were the infamous Tony Ferguson fights, where the last one was literally cancelled due to a whole ass pandemic. That was as voodoo and paranormal as my boy Jared Cannonier's Magic Rock collection.
Visualize myself winning, manifesting my reality, sending my intentions up to the universe, and opening my heart to all the possibilities and all the wonders.
After going on a 9-fight winning streak in the UFC and being 25-0, Khabib would finally get that covenant title shot in April of 2018. He'd go on to face real estate mogul Ali Quinta for the vacant lightweight belt, which was vacant due to none other than Conor McGregor. Much like the rest of his career, Khabib would dominate Al through all 5 rounds and won by unanimous decision. Khabib was now the lightweight champion. Khabib really did run through all of his opponents. His fights were all one-sided, and although fans complained that they're boring, you gotta admit, the guy really did dominate his opponents. When it came to grappling, no one, and I mean no one, showed as much dominance as Khabib in that octagon. All the while, McGregor was souped up on that John Jones secret powder and some proper 12. McGregor's path to facing Khabib was, as previously mentioned, one of the most rapid and biggest growths ever seen. He'd gone on a 6-fight win streak, taking out the likes of Max Holloway, Dustin Poirier, Chad Mendes, and Jose Aldo. He captured the featherweight belt, KOing Aldo in just 14 seconds. He really did break Aldo mentally with all that trash talk leading up to that fight. So much so that as soon as that bell rang, Aldo ran straight into McGregor's left and it was lights out. From there, his win streak would get cut short as he'd get submitted by Nate Diaz at UFC 196. He'd quickly bounce back just 5 months later, winning the rematch against Diaz by a controversial majority decision. He had faced Diaz at welterweight in both fights, so his belt wasn't on the line then. In his next fight, he'd capture the lightweight belt, KOing Eddie Alvarez to become the first ever simultaneous 2-division champion in the UFC. From here, McGregor would eventually get stripped of the belt as he'd venture off to boxing to secure that hefty bag and fight Floyd Mayweather in August of 2017. So by the time 2018 rolled around, McGregor would be 2 years out from his last MMA fight. But McGregor was massive at this point and there was no stopping that train. After Khabib won the belt, McGregor started to chime in and Uncle Dana booked the fight. UFC 229 in October of 2018 would be main evented by Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Conor McGregor. Leading up to the fight, tensions at press conferences and during interviews were at an all-time high. McGregor's trash talk was as dirt nasty low as it had ever been. The dude would take shots of proper 12 and show up both drunk and late to the pressers. He'd spew out anything and everything to try and get under Khabib's skin, cutting him off, taking shots at his crew, his father, and that quote-unquote rat, Ali Abdelaziz, who was Khabib's manager.
Your mouth. Ali Abdelaziz, mad terrorist. Terrorist snitch.
Ali.
I know a lot about you as well, you mad rat. I know a lot about you as well. You keep your mouth shut, kid.
Now, at this point, generally, Khabib was backed by Russians in the Muslim community. McGregor was backed by the Americans and the Irish. Cold War 2.0. So it wasn't just Conor versus Khabib. This was America/Ireland taking on Russia and Islam. Khabib was public about his religion, and when McGregor would talk about his family and nation, he'd take it very serious. A couple months prior to UFC 229, McGregor straight up threw a dolly at a bus. That bus had Khabib and a bunch of other fighters on it. The dolly shattered some windows and caused injuries, including some cuts to Michael Chiesa, and shook the not-so-thug Rose Namajunas.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm not joking when I say McGregor was wild during these times. Him and his crew literally jumped Khabib while he was on a bus. This attack was even before Khabib won the lightweight belt, so the bad blood and hate the two guys had for each other was as real as it gets. Finally, after weeks of trash talk and attempted physical assaults by McGregor, Khabib and Conor would be locked inside the octagon. The fight though was pretty lackluster and went pretty much how most expected. Khabib out-grappled McGregor until that horrendous gas tank ran out and eventually submitted him in the 4th round. Now, what wasn't expected was Khabib taking that nickname of the Eagle too serious and attempting to fly out the octagon in Jackie Chan Dillon Danis of all people. Dillon was Conor's corner man at the time. The whole octagon side went crazy and Conor started fighting with some of Khabib's guys as Khabib himself hit Dillon with a 5-star frog splash from the top rope.
Look at Randy Orton slithering. Watch out, watch out, watch out, watch out!
Nurmagomedov appeared at the post-fight interview and apologized to the Nevada State Athletic Commission, saying he was provoked by the trash talk targeting his family, nation, and religion, as well as the UFC 223 bus incident. The commission would give a 9-month suspension for Nurmagomedov and a $500,000 fine. McGregor would be suspended for 6 months and given a $50,000 fine.
60 G's, baby!
Honestly, looking back at it, it really could have gone much worse. Not all, but some of Khabib and Conor's fans at the time were some of the most toxic and disgusting human beings ever seen. The entire arena could have broken to a massive brawl, but thankfully things died down fairly quickly. When the dust settled and the numbers came out, the card would sell a whopping 2.4 million pay-per-view buys, which will most likely forever be the most sold pay-per-view card in UFC history. I mean, coming in at second is UFC 257 at 1.6 million, and that once again has McGregor headlining it. I doubt any card will ever come close to UFC 229. The combination of the heated backstories, trash talk at the pressers, and nation versus nation was a jackpot for Uncle Dana. Even when I was in school during that time, some of my friends who never talked about UFC and didn't know anything about MMA watched this fight. It brought in a new generation of fans and even sparked the rise of the Dagestanis in MMA. Let me know if you started watching UFC because of McGregor v Khabib and what you thought of the fight and all the drama that surrounded it in the comments.